La, welcome to the players' loud. Yeah, when all the moment, man, it can't compare.
Good morning, you fan faithfuls. Hope your head is still swimming over the exhilarating display of football by our football Utes last night versus too long of a tailgate party. Mr. Moss, how are you doing this morning?
I'm great, man. I'm great. How you doing?
I'm doing okay. Thanks for asking. Always good to see you on this Labor Day weekend. So, being Labor Day weekend, did the Utes put in the work last night you expected to see?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they did much better than I expected. I thought that, obviously we would win because UCLA, in my opinion, wasn't going to be a really strong team. And it's not a team that anybody had doing a lot this season. All the noise for UCLA mainly came from the transfer quarterback. Outside of that, it was actually football stuff on the green. So yeah, they did an amazing job, man, of coming out there, executing a lot of plays and putting drives together, which is hard to do when you don't get that chance to essentially do it through fall camp a lot. When you get those live reps, especially the ones and stuff like that. So it was awesome to see them putting drives together. And then obviously the biggest thing that everybody loved and probably cared about was seeing the OC call the plays and how much of a variety there was of these plays. And it wasn't just, the same old stuff that they were probably kind of used to for the last couple of years, and seeing how they spread the field, getting other people the ball. And we'll speak about that, just who were touching the ball and stuff like that. So it was awesome to see for sure.
It was a breath of fresh air that everybody has been waiting to deeply inhale, specifically from last year. I know that we talked previously before the show of what you wanted to see established on the offensive defensive side. Did they establish on offense what you needed to see happen to say Utah football offense is back?
I don't want to say it's back. I think the excitement, like I said, is the variety of the offense, how the plays were called. Watching the game, I got a lot of Ben Johnson from Beck, just the style and just everything like that, getting the ball out of Dampier's hands early, making them comfortable within the game, getting to things that he liked, and stuff like that. So I wouldn't say they're back yet. I saw some stuff that I wasn't super loving at the beginning because I thought we used Dampier's leg a little too much. I understand that is what separates him from a lot of different guys around the country. But when you are out rushing your running backs, right? One guy has 16 carries and then the other had 11 carries, right? And then Dampier ended the game with 16 carries and was our lead rusher, which, like I said, I love the fact that we have somebody like that we can depend on in both aspects of the game, is rushing and passing the ball. Because he was super efficient, right? But his legs allow him to be super efficient as well, because he can make all those different type of plays happen and make those high percentage passes. But I didn't love that we used his legs too much a little bit. I thought we'll love to see both the backs get a little bit more run. I thought that was a game where maybe they both could have been around 15 carries a pop each, probably even a little bit more than that if we needed to. But I love like I said, I love the scheme. There were some design runs for Dampier in there. We had a long drive, a 20-play drive as well. And the tempo wasn't slow on that drive, right? It was a lot of tempo on that drive. So that's great to see in the first game as well, because that lets me know and give me a good indication that these guys are conditioned. Like, fall camp was a success, because 20-play drives, 80 yards is not fun. It is not fun.
Especially for defense. It's not fun.
Yeah. So you can imagine how many times you actually script a 20-play drive, or even when they say, you know what, let's just play ball, put the ball down right in practice. Come on, 20 plays? That was crazy.
You don't even practice 20-play scripts in 2-minute drill on Thursday's practice. Like, that is an outlier for the amount of drive.
Yeah, no, it was crazy, but it was a lot of great things I thought they did. Obviously, some things which you take away from every game, win or loss, it's always some things you can get better at, and I'm sure the coaches will look at that. And with this upcoming game at home, it's a chance for them to work on a lot of different things. But still, I thought it was a very, very good showing. I think it's going to have a lot of people hyped, and that's the best part as well. It's like it's going to be a really good week, and it's going to be a really good opening week here in Rice Eccles.
I have to agree with you. I don't think that they, as McBride would put it, they haven't arrived yet. They still got some space to make up. But we spoke on the 48-hour rule of an identity. Both sides of the ball need to establish an identity. I feel from the first time they broke the huddle and took the line, they were establishing their identity. They broke the huddle quick. They were on the line quick. They got lined up quick. Like they were a business, a high-tuned, high-caliber, finely tuned machine last night from just snapping the huddle. I think the offense found that identity that people have been looking for in the last couple of seasons. And like you mentioned, Dampier, his legs. We have been blessed as Utah fans in the last several cycles of quarterback to have unicorns, but in a Ute uniform. And what I mean by that is we have players with specific skill sets. Dampier's legs, absolutely. Him being the leading rusher, that causes concern for me because when your offense is contingent upon a unicorn like that, what happens when they're not in? Mm-hmm. When his helmet came off on that error decision to take that hit, I got butterflies because I knew who was coming in, and it would be a totally different playbook. So if you're going to protect Dampier, you've got to let him run less because we want him playing into deep October, November, and December, obviously. I totally concur with you on that. The offensive line, wow. The rushing yards in themselves speak. And you being a running back, I know you appreciated what was going down on front. I watched the first 3 series specifically to see the line surge. Were they getting pushed, stonewalled, or making progress? And they were forging through with progress. It was exciting. I think Coach Whittingham could have ran for 50 yards last night from that backfield. It was ridiculous. Fano up front dominated, and it continued down the line. It was fun to watch those men go out and manhandle UCLA up front like they did. And once you can establish that, everything else is available in the playbook. Absolutely everything else. I wish Snowden would have gotten less carries and more in the backfield, but you mentioned in the 48-hour rule that running back is kind of by committee right now. They're trying to figure out. I will say Rodgers, that boy's got some speed. He has got some speed. Yeah. He's got a 5th and a 6th gear that we've needed on the outside and from the backfield to stretch those zone defenses. I appreciated them using Snowden on offense, and I'll get to that two-way player phenomenon here in a minute. But I want to say traditional to Whittingham's beginning of the season playbook approach. He likes to put things on film so that coming opponents have to take the time to respect that game plan. Them putting Snowden in wide receiver motion for the jet sweep, anytime he lines up after, they have to have a contingency plan on defense ready for it. They've got to have it. When Barton lines up at tight end now, they have to be conscientious of it, and that takes up prep time to focus on everything else. They've got many tricks in the bag. It's evident by the way that they ran the plays last night, and it's going to be fun to watch. So I have a feeling the two-way decrease, specifically next week. The two-way playing will decrease, but the fact they've got it on film is going to cause defensive coordinators headaches for the rest of the season. It makes you respect that skill set. Also on offense, the outside wide receiver play. Still looking for that deep stretch threat with the speed, but all of their catches seem to be short comeback yak yards. It was precision, quick release, and when it wasn't a quick release, we mentioned in the 48-hour rule, the receivers have to do things to keep Dampier's eyes downfield. They got to get him options. They got to get open. And I noticed on all of the bootleg rollouts, they had 3 layers of routes available to him. And when those were taken, he can run it. Yep. So that offensive production last night, to me, determines every DC is going to have to spy Dampier. And that takes one more person out of the box or in the deep zone over the top coverage from the safety. Benefit Utah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And UCLA spied him a few times that game. And they tried to use some good containment things there, but he broke it down. I mean, he made two dudes just touch the ground. He's very quick. He's very sudden, and he knows how to use your leverage on you as well. And so that was really good to see. But yeah, like Snowden, I think is going to come down a little bit. But like you said, that was a great point. Putting it on film right now, because you don't get a lot of practice time, right? So now just having to take 5 minutes, 10 minutes of practice time to watch this guy line up, right? And then have people, planning for that. That's great tactic on the coaching staff side. And this offense kind of gives me a little bit of a Ben Johnson type feel. Beck is giving me some Ben Johnson style offense, right? And that's why I'm so excited, because they generated over 400 plus yards, 450 plus
Yes,
yards.
they did.
Right?
Yes, they did.
And in my mind, all I can think of is what they didn't do well, right? The parts of the explosive that we're missing still right now that we didn't get a chance to see. So I'm like, okay, these dudes generated 450 plus yardage, right? The passing game was super efficient, right? I mean, we probably look at Dampier. Dampier probably threw one pass where you kind of was like, okay, that was a little risky early on in the game, but that was it, right? We had the one fumble, right? But we recovered it, thankfully, right? But outside of that, that was a clean operational game, right? And to your point, getting up on the line of scrimmage, getting the ball snap, everybody's set. The everything is clean, right? Usually you don't see that first game. You see a lot of penalties. You see a lot of false starts and playing behind the sticks. We didn't have those issues. We didn't have to worry about that at all, right? And I remember going to one of the practices, and Beck was out there just screaming and hollering a lot of the practice. And now when I look back at it, I'm like, you know what? That probably is an attest to why these guys were so ready, operational wise, to come out there and perform at a high level, right? Because those things were harped on and not glazed over and glossed over. Those things harped on at practice over and over and over. And these guys, like they said, I saw Snowden and Dampier said this was a statement game. They wanted to come out and put it on film that, hey, we are not the teams that had the injuries the last year or two. We are a totally different ball team, and this is going to be a group that you got to go through us, right? We may not have all the preseason hype and all this other stuff, but when you look at it, this program has built winners. They know how to be consistently always one of the best teams in the country. So I love where the mindset is of these guys. And it's coming from your best players, right?
Yes.
I love where the mindset is. And I know that each and every week, like now when they go play Cal Poly, right? Cal Poly isn't a UCLA type of a team or the other teams that they're going to go play, down the line. But I have no doubt that they're going to take that matchup and not play down to it, but go out and make sure that they are just continuing to sharpen their swords and get ready each and every week for what they got to go do. And Cal Poly is going to be another team that we're going to see a lot of really good things from.
The identity veil was lifted. Do we have an offensive identity? Yes, absolutely. And I appreciate OC Beck. And I'm going to have to call him OC Beck because I'm OG Beck. But OC Beck harping on them at practice. There's something I tell my students and all of the kids I coach. Practice makes not perfect, because nobody's perfect, only my grandma. But practice makes permanent, and you play the way you practice. And if he's harping on them in practice, it's going to manifest in the game. And we witnessed that first off. Is Dampier the offensive leader? I believe so. Not vocal, but he's obviously getting his offense to get where they need to be on the field, and he's getting the ball where it needs to go. Some identity things that we shed from last year, I'm glad didn't carry through from this year. You mentioned penalties. We have 3 penalties for 15 yards total. Last year, we seem to shoot ourselves in the foot constantly with penalties. That would lead to third down efficiency or non-efficiency. We were amazing on third down last night. And the reason being, I believe, third and short.
Yeah.
We played ahead of the sticks consistently, and it was amazing to watch. We never stifled or shot ourselves in the foot momentum-wise. UCLA, on the other hand, every chance they got. There's a reason why they had so many fourth down attempts, because third down was just garbage for them. I want to say they converted 2 out of 11 third downs.
Yeah.
That's abysmal to any offensive perspective. So I'm glad that we shed that. But let me ask you, offensive player of the game, who would you nod to?
For me, I got to go with the offensive line as a unit.
Thank you.
You gotta go with the offensive line as a unit, man. Like, they start everything, right? And then on the other side of the ball, right? When look at the defensive line, how they changed that game, and those two units play out of their minds, and they play at a level that if we can get to that level each week, it's going to be really, really hard. But yeah, offensive MVP will have to be the offensive line, right? Them guys, and Coach Harden had those guys ready to go, and that's not easy when you're talking about, the different style of offense, right? That's that offensive line is probably more so used to coming off the ball, mulling guys over off rip. When you're playing with Dampier, right, and he can hang back there for 7-8 seconds, right?
All
and
day, like you said, it's not fair.
No, it's not fair. He can hang back there for a while. These quick passes, RPO game, right? All these small little things, making sure they're not past the line of scrimmage, got a legal man downfield. All these things that is very hard to replicate in practice, right? Because you don't have a ref out there, making sure they're not past, that line or whatever. So they were flawless. They looked really, really good. And to your point, on those third downs, I mean, we would just line up on the center and then just hand the ball off, and everybody knows exactly which way it's going, right? We know exactly which way it's going. And these dudes can get 5-6 yards on a 3rd and 1. That's not
smash
fair,
mouth football,
right? Most of these 3rd and 1s are supposed to be, it's really close. We got 2 yards. Great. When we're talking about 5 and 6 yards, man. So, and then you got guys still standing up, finishing blocks like that. I was like, man, this isn't fair. And UCLA is not a bad team of, when it comes to the talent aspect of things, right? Like,
no.
These guys have, highly recruited players and all that type of stuff. So it's not like you're just whooping up on, anybody from down the street. These are guys that were recruited from everywhere. And to see that was lovely.
It was absolutely lovely. When the line surges past the first down marker, it makes it easy to go for it on 3rd down. Absolutely easy. As far as, and fumbles. We did fumble twice, but we lost 0. I know that will be spoken about in team meetings, but first game, things are going to happen. I totally agree. The offense has been forged. From now on, spit and polish. Polish.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's flip the side of the ball. Defense. Give up 136 yards passing, 84 yards rushing, is smash mouth Salt Lake City defense football. Back, they haven't arrived yet, but is it the identity we needed to see this game?
Oh yeah. That defense has always been built around some really good that front four, right? When we got some guys up there that can rush that passer and create havoc and get in the backfield and throw off the timing of a lot of different stuff, because UCLA quarterback is pretty dynamic with his legs as well. He can run and evade and get some things going a little bit from that aspect. But they had him totally rattled the entire game, and it was great to see. I mean, I think they only gave about 23 yards in the first quarter, just overall, right? So everything else,
-8 rushing 2 minutes into the second quarter.
Yeah, so it was everything you want to see. The DBs look pretty good as well. They had some hole shots that they kind of missed UCLA, but still, overall, I thought everybody looked really, really well. Fano was making a ton of plays, and if that guy can stay healthy and be that just wrecking havoc type of a player, right? When you have a guy like that, right? Not just we got a pass rusher and we know on 3rd down, this is when this guy kind of shows up. But when you have a guy like a Max Crosby type of a player or Myles Garrett type of players, that guys that are just can cause havoc on 1st, 2nd, and 3rd down and get these teams to have to play different than they might want to, right? Oh, now we got to play the quick game. We can't sit here and just hold the ball, and we can't do rollouts and play actions and all this funny stuff that a lot of teams like to do now. I think Fano has a chance from just that showing of last night. I think he has a chance to be one of those similar type players in causing havoc for that defense and be that guy, right? Because we got some really good linebackers.
Yep.
We're not worried about that, right? The interior is looking pretty solid overall, and the DBs back there are going to look even better if Fano is that guy causing havoc, making the quarterbacks have to think, right? And you only got about 3 seconds to throw the ball as a quarterback already. So now if you got to think about another guy, you lose in the second and a half. So that ball is going to have to come out quicker. Coach Shaw is going to have these guys ready to jump all this stuff. And we'll see even more pick sixes. We already have pick sixes galore, right? We never not have one of those. So imagine if now we can get that guy who can cause so much havoc and that ball has to come out a lot quicker. It's going to be beautiful.
Logan played beautifully. The whole defensive line played beautifully. Logan specifically, it was almost like he saw the success and the domination his brother was having and decided, I don't want to only talk about him at Thanksgiving dinner with family. I want to be part of the conversation. And he took charge. This defensive line, and I'm a bit biased, it reminds me of 1994's defensive line, my freshman year, when Coach Luther Ellis was the defensive tackle. Barnesdale Miller was on the outside, Chad Kahaha, both Kafusi boys. When the defensive tackles don't have very many tackles in the game, means the outsides are doing what they need to do and the insides stay unplugged.
Yeah.
Nico got some rush yards, but it was because he was running for his life versus the yards Dampier got that were optional out of RPO options. Pass wasn't there. I'm going to run it and get those yards. Nico was running for his life. Absolutely. We kept pressure on him the entire game. He had to look out of the corner of his eye. He wasn't comfortable back there. That's Utah defensive football. Smash mouth. It's the way it's been for 31 years since Coach Whittingham started with the defensive line in 94 under his dad as the DC. That is Utah defense football. I love seeing the linebackers do what they do. Barton had a great game, tackle-wise, pressure-wise. But the only defensive pass breakup came from Fano.
Yeah.
We had no, and I'm saying that's credit to the pressure.
Yeah.
There were no downfield balls. And all of the yards that they got were because the coverage could have been a bit tighter, but the ball was coming out quick and they were desperation plays. They needed big chunks in third and long. They were behind the sticks all night. You're going to put those 50-50 balls up there. You're probability states you're going to win some of them. Another thing I liked from last night, safety play from Nate Ritchie. Nate Ritchie has been in and out of the lineup the last couple of years. He's on the leadership council. But what I saw him do last night is direct players, get downhill, establish the sideline, and establish the contain to turn everything back in. It was a silent, beautiful display of being efficient and leading that defense. I saw that from many people on the defense, specifically the defensive backs, though. I am excited to see them get challenged more downfield, but there wasn't that opportunity last night. Yeah. Only time will tell. Things are looking good for the defense. They can spit and polish, but like we mentioned, the offense, they're going to go pretty vanilla playbook. They're not going to reveal how they release the dogs at every time. And it's going to be more exciting as they get more comfortable. I really appreciated when UCLA was testing our coverage and our football IQ by sending people in yo-yo motion and seeing if we were trailing in man or if we were bumping the zones.
Yeah.
It looked like the communication was better. The pickup was better. Understanding the schematic was better. Overall defensive IQ seemed to be more in sync. And when you're not thinking about what I have to do, you could start thinking about what am I going to do? And that was the opportunities defense presented last night. Third down efficiency for UCLA was abysmal. Defense stepped it up on that. It was an absolute beautiful display of defensive efficiency. Who would you say was defensive player of the game?
I think I got to go with Fano. I have to, just because of the havoc causing those plays to be killed in the backfield. You're right. Even when he's not making the actual play physically, he's making that play for the other guys to now make that play, right? Like you said, we didn't see a ton of these deep passes, right? And that's a credit to the entire defensive line because not one guy can change it, right? Offensive line, they work as a unit, right? Defensive line, they rush as a group, as a unit, right? So no, not singling him out as if he was just there by him sure self, but his effort that he had, and he played with, that energy that he played with, that's going to be, contagious to all those guys on that side of the ball. And like I said, when you have your two leaders, right, Snowden and Dampier are two of your best players, if not probably your two best players, right? When they go into the press conference and they say this was a statement game, they weren't just speaking, this is a statement game, right, and whispering that to each other the whole week. Everybody on that roster knew this was a statement game, and everybody on that roster came out and played with the execution that was needed to make a statement. Everybody came with the energy and the effort that was needed to make a statement. And you saw it at the end of the day. 43-10, killed them in a lot of different areas, gave them no life. The only thing they had life was running for it, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like I said, it was a great display for the first game of the year, right? I think the fans are going to be ecstatic from this game. Like, they waking up today, right? It's going to be a great Sunday, right? It's going to be a great Monday from Labor Day, right? It's just going to be a nice little 2-day extra break here from seeing that and having so much to talk about, because, like I said, we haven't seen this offense with this different style of players being able to do so many different things. Like, I was watching the game and I'm watching and I'm like, man, we didn't have none of this just variety of different stuff that we did, right? And I played with 3 different OCs, and not one of them had this style of a variety and understanding on, like, how to call these plays. It's really easy when you have a lot of plays, right? I can print out 500 plays, but how to call them, when to call them, where to call them, all that stuff is way more important than just having all these pretty plays where you can motion a guy over here, fly motion them behind the quarterback, and do a fake counter this way, run a screen. It's great when it looks a certain way on TV, but having a guy like OC Beck, right, that knows how to call these plays and when to call these plays is great, because on the other side of the ball, right, Coach Witt, Coach Scally, those guys, they're playing complimentary football with us on offense, right? So he's not calling things that are going to get us off the field in 3 and outs and then putting our defense back in a bad position, right? He's calling this game with the understanding of, hey, I'm doing something, a job, not only for our offensive side of the ball, but also for the defense side of the ball. And if it comes down to it, the special teams as well, because all these different phases are a big one, right? So that was the biggest thing, because I know when I played, sometimes ROCs would not think all the way about comprehensive football, and that would kill Coach Witt.
I get what you're saying. It's like we need to get into our rhythm. We need to establish our play set so that they'll sucker up on this for the third quarter play. Last night, it seemed like the offense was like, we're not going to put you in this situation. Absolutely. We're going to get ours, and if we don't get to the end zone, it's not going to put you all in a bind.
No, it's going to be after 7-8 plays. Don't worry. You're going to be fresh. You're going to have it's one thing that I know defensive players hate. We go out there and we throw the ball 3 straight times, and they right back up, and they like, come on, man. Like, just come on. We just sat down. We just got a little water, and you right back out there. So for me, watching them, I'm like, okay, these guys, it seems like Coach Beck and Coach Witt and all those guys have a great idea of how they want to play together, right? The coaches also have to play the game together, right? So watching them do that, just this first game, I'm like, okay, that's a beautiful thing, because he's not putting them in a bad situation. He's not putting them in situations. He's not even calling plays where the ball can be at a high level of turnover, right? So all of these different things, people have to look at it like that a little bit, think about it sometimes like that, and just think about how much better this offense is going to get. And that alone leaves you so excited to have a guy like Beck who's going to be calling these plays and is going to be calling this offense for the next few years, right? And the guys that you're going to start getting in here want to come and play in this style offense, because, like I say, it gives me Ben Johnson vibes, and I don't know a guy in the NFL that doesn't want to play in a Ben Johnson style offense right now. So it's great.
Well put. Very well put. I had the defensive player of the game as the entire defensive line. They showed up as a unit. Sac Lake City may not be back yet. They haven't arrived, as Coach Mack would say, but they are definitely knocking on the door. It's going to be exciting to see them spit and polish this Forge defense for the weeks to come. A little dark horse I got to mention, the new kicker, Dylan Curtis. Homegrown product, Murray High School. The community was very excited to see this young man take the field last night as a freshman. He shanks the first extra point.
Yeah.
And then I thought, you know what? You got it out of the way. Only greatness. Goes out, nails a 53-yarder. Knowing you have a leg from a freshman available like that changes the way the offense can call the plays too.
Yeah. And putting him in that moment right then and there, because
yes,
if I'm a freshman, right, and I'm kicking this ball and I shank my first kick, right, and then I come out and they ask me to come kick a 53-yarder, right, and instead of him turning it down in the sense of, going out and missing it, right, because when you miss that, that's something mental that's happened, right, but him going out there mentally locking in and saying, I'm going to go kick this field goal and make this, because I've made this plenty of times, right, even with the game being out of reach and stuff like that, yes, but still, going out there, visualizing, seeing it, and then doing it, that's huge. And that's great for the confidence of a guy that you're going to rely on at some point. And you're going to need him to be ready to go. Because with this style offense, I don't think he's going to have many opportunities to kick field goals, right? Right, yeah. Like the way, like I played in maybe my second year in Buffalo, we had a punter. We didn't even know we had a punter, right? Because it's either we were scoring a touchdown, right, or we were getting 3 points. And at the end, so it was for weeks on end where this guy didn't punt the ball. So for me, I'm hoping that it can kind of resemble a little bit of that, so where we're not kicking field goals as much as we might need to, right? Because 3 points is always good when you can get them. But still, this offense just moves the ball at a pace and in a way that is really, really unstoppable to some degree. The only thing that can stop them is themselves. Penalties and turnovers of the ball, right? So it was great to see the coaches put him in that spot to give him that confidence. So now next week, coming back home, allow him to go out there and make these kicks now in his home stadium, and that's only going to further build up his confidence. That's what these early games are for, right? Especially when you can jump out on the UCLA like that. Now you can get practice reps in almost, right? Some of this stuff is now getting younger guys in and letting them work their stuff and stuff like that. So I'm expecting the same thing, man. It was great to see the coaching staff be so progressive in their thinking and putting young guys out there and putting our guy out there to make that 53-yard kick, because that's not easy to do.
No. And I think it gives every other player good insight into the faith and belief that the coaching staff will have as you as a player and why you're there. You're not here to keep your job. You're here to show why you got the job or the opportunity to begin with. And them giving that young kid who, he's going to have stage fright. Your first extra point is in the Rose Bowl, literally in the Rose Bowl as a freshman. Yeah, your nerves are going to be shaky.
Yeah.
But you got to put that confidence. Mistakes are going to happen. It's how you respond to it, and they forge through beautifully. Knowing that your scoring possibilities increase once you get inside the 40-yard line changes your offense, changes your mindset, and it changes the sticks. It changes the way the defense calls it as well.
Mm-hmm.
Changes the way the defense calls it as well.
Commercial football.
Yes. I wanted that. So you did speak to the point I wanted to ask you personally. You being a running back, you appreciate what the offensive line was doing. That they're opening the holes, that there's that great line surge. That makes any running back's mouth water when they have options to run the ball. We talked about identity in the 48-hour rule. There's always been a motto or something that ties into the business of Utah football. It started off decades ago with Utah by 5, and then it went to Next Man Up and Mafu with McBride, and it went to all other things. In the last couple of years, that rally cry has been the Forever 22.
Mm.
And I've been thinking the Forever 22, the scholarship, the moment of noise, all of that. As a fan for several years, I have seen the rally point around that. I've seen it in the stadium. I've seen it carry for several years. My question is there enough people on the roster now that remember that can still use it to push through? Or is this the new resurgence of an identity for Utah football? I'm not saying they're going to forget the 22. That's a forever thing, gratefully. But is it time to hitch up the cart to a different horse, forging forward with how much turnover is happening on college football rosters?
Yeah, that's a great point. It's a great point, because 50% of the roster is new, right? Like, a lot of these guys weren't impacted by that, right?
Yes.
Obviously, you can share, similarities and things like that to that what happened, that tragedy, both tragedies there, as just being humans, right? We all know someone who might have passed and things of that nature, and it could have, impacted us. But what that had on those teams that won 2 back-to-back Pac-12 championship games, right? What that had on those teams isn't going to be the same carryover on these new teams going forward, right? Because at the end of the day, yes, it is always going to be a forever thing. The coaching staff there, the people who come after that coaching staff is always going to preach that and remember that, and going to have those going into the fourth quarter, those moments of silence and things of that nature, right? And have all that stuff going. But I think it's not a bad idea to start thinking about what the identity of the culture is for this team, and how the turnover is always going to happen. Like, you're not going to retain your players constantly, right? I think if you almost giving yourself a little room for error, 50% might be the new norm with this NIL stuff, right? And you have to start thinking in that sense of it and understand, okay, a lot of these guys are from different places. A lot of these guys are only going to be here for 6 months. A lot of these guys, right, are X, Y, and Z. So it's like, you got to figure out a way. I think right now for this team, they can still use, everything that 22 Forever brings. I think they can still use that because it's still so fresh and it's still so new, and it hurts you every single time you hear about it, you see it, all of those different feels that it brings. It still has that fresh sting to it. So I think they can still use it. And you have a few guys that are still on the team that was there, and the coaches. It right now was making it last so long. It's the coaches right now with this roster. But yeah, I think definitely at some point, maybe next 2-3 years, that we are going to have to shift from that, right? And not use that as motivation in a sense, but leave it as a beautiful thing, as what they've made it become, right? And find a new path is something that these guys can hold on to for the next 20-30 years, right? Something that wasn't built out of a tragedy, right? And it was beautiful how the coaches, that they don't get enough credit, right? Now when we think about it, they don't get enough credit of how they rallied all those young guys together, right? They're not like, that's not their kids, right? But the way they were able to rally those young guys together, keep them level-headed, and not have stupid retaliation things outside of things you can't control, and bring it into something that the entire state could feel. They don't get enough credit for being in that each and every single day. And people aren't checking up on the coaches, right? Because they lost players as well. People aren't checking on the coaches. The coaches are so busy giving to the players in this moment in time. So, and that's stuff that sticks with you for life for the players. Like, when they walk out of those doors, right, losing 2 guys you played with, that hurts for your life. That's not something you ever forget. So they don't get enough credit for that. But at some point, absolutely, it's going to. That's everything in life. Everything changes, right? You just use all the different Utah in 5, next man up. You would have thought those, when they were brought up, would be there forever, right? Change happens. Change is inevitable. It happens to each and every one of us. So even with something super touchy as that, it is still going to happen. And that's where the logic part of your brain has to separate from the emotion of it, because like I said, it is a terrible thing. But you have to be able to, see that light and understand that, okay, we are going to be in different times here.
I appreciate how you said no one thinks about the coaches, because if you ever look at Coach Sharif Shah, behind that humongous smile and his constant love you mans. You would never think that something like that is still affecting him, although he is just as human as anybody else.
Yeah.
And it does affect them. We just don't get to see them express it or act on it like players can go out and rally around.
Absolutely.
I appreciated Dampier last night in the post-conference interview saying it's a family feel. That's what he started it off with. Now, granted, him and Snowden both checked all the boxes off in their media responses in the press conference that they were taught in freshman media relations class. I mean, it was all generic, roundabout, vanilla, checked off the boxes. But that Utah family feel, you experienced it. I've experienced it. It is real. And I think that the rally point, the Forever 22, the next man up, the Mafu from McBride, all of it circles back to this is a tight-knit family community. And with the high turnover now, people may not be here long enough to even figure that out. But the ones that do will be able to spread that love and forge forward for hopefully the next 20, 30 years, keeping that family mentality intact. And with Scally being the coaching and waiting, I know that his mindset and approach mirrors Whittingham's, who mirrored Urban and McBride, who mirrored all of the other head coaches that wanted that family feel and that connection.
Absolutely.
You know what? That's all I had. You answered all my questions gratefully. I know you're extremely tired because you got a young baby in arms that's wrestling for your attention in the middle of the night. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we let these people go for Labor Day?
Man, I'm looking forward to this upcoming week, though. I'm planning on being at the game, so it'll be my first game, home opener game that I've ever been to in any sport outside of the one I've had to play it.
So they're going to put you up on the Jumbotron.
Hopefully not. Hopefully I can just go somewhere in the back, man, and just chill somewhere. I don't know, but I'm so excited to see this offense in person now. And I was kind of like, man, do I want to go to this game because it's Cal Poly? But then it's like, I know they're going to win this handily. They're going to go out and look dominant. By the third quarter, you're going to be like, all right, should I beat traffic here, right? So I was thinking about it, but then I watched the game last night, and I'm sitting in my office, and I'm watching, and I'm like, man, I kind of need to see these dudes in person and see this stuff moving and how things are being spoken on the sideline. Like, I want to see what's the intensity, what's the communication, how are guys loving on each other, having their backs and stuff like that, and everything like that. When Parker had the fumble, I'm like, okay, I saw him have the fumble. He came out, and Rogers came in and ran the ball, right? And Rogers is definitely going to have a lot of big runs this year. I'm actually, now that I've watched that game, I won't be mad if you use both of them. You're going to have to use both of them. I don't think one or the other, they play totally different. So I don't think either one is going to get a huge lead on the other, especially this season. But I think you got to just use both of them, which I'm excited to see. So I want to see just, how everything is working on the sideline as well. So I'm like, man, that game was so impressive that they might get me to drive 45 minutes to come down to Rice Eccles, being all that commotion going on and everything like that, and be there and still have to think about that traffic later on. I might just do it because that offense looks so damn good. And I'm leaning towards it. So I'm looking forward to that, man. I think that's going to be the biggest thing. Make sure you guys are having some great food on Labor Day and just kicking your feet up as much as you can. That's the best thing I can give you.
I want to hear the pads pop. Like, I wish I would have been at that game last night because those pads were popping and they weren't getting picked up on all the microphones. But I think that was the missing component and fine detail that would have wrapped up what I was witnessing with my eyes and thinking in my head. All I was missing was the big context because there was a lot of contact in our favor, and pads pop when you see lines surge that much. So I'm excited for that aspect next week. And we'll get in more to this with the 48-hour rule coming out later this week. But let me close with asking you this. Bloody Monday. It's practice tomorrow. For those that don't know, it's the follow-up first practice back from the game. It's called Bloody Monday because it's where your dues are paid. When I played, it was called Loaf Monday because McBride at the end of practice would have everybody circle up around the U in the stadium, back when the stadium was green concrete. And if you felt you loafed during the game, meaning you took a play off, you went in the circle. And you did up downs until coach got tired of blowing the whistle. That started the retribution. McBride would lay down on the ground with his whistle. This is morphed into Bloody Monday. Do you think Monday's practice is a good one?
I won't say it's a good one. I won't say it's a good one. When you beat down somebody like that, complacency is going to creep in, right? But I do believe that, like I said earlier, I do believe that these guys, with the statement that they made, right, verbally and physically, when they said they wanted to make a statement, I think they have understanding that this is not one game. You don't make a statement for one game, right? So everything that you're going to do is going to matter. So I don't think it's going to be a good practice, right? I think it's going to be a practice where hopefully the mental reps take precedent, right? Physically, they've toned it down a lot, man, right? Like physically, they've doing up downs in the middle. Yeah, that happening right now is not a chance, right? Like even, the pit isn't even a thing anymore, right?
2 days ain't a thing anymore.
No. So I don't think it's going to be a physical practice. So I think by that standard, that's why I'm shifting my mindset to stealing the mental reps, right? How many guys can steal the mental reps that didn't play maybe a lot in this game, but are going to play a lot in this game, most likely, that are going to need these mental reps, because the ones are still going to get the reps throughout the week. So hopefully Monday is, really, really good from neck above. So that's what I'm looking forward to. And, it's going to catapult these guys into doing some really good things. They can get off to a hot start and have defenses on their heels, and our defense putting offenses on their heels 24/7, the way they looked, man, on both sides of the ball. You couldn't have asked for anything better, especially that game starting so late. You couldn't have asked for anything better.
I think that next week's game looks like the last week of an NFL preseason schedule. You're going to see people getting the reps that need the mental reps. The coaches are trying to figure out the depth chart. It's almost like a playbook test book. Who's been paying attention in film? Who's been in their playbook? Who's been getting quality reps? Because now they get to show it. It's at home. I think a lot of the underclassmen get a chance to shine. I remember how excited I was to get in the game on defense, our first home game in '94 against Idaho State. Played the whole fourth quarter. The freshman defensive backfield played the entire fourth quarter, and that gave us the confidence to go to Oregon the next week and play. So the more you get under the lights, just like Dylan Curtis with the kick attempt, just like the two-way players, there's a lot to think about for the fans and for opposing coaches. But one thing that we will think about on this Labor Day is we deserve tomorrow off because the Utes put in a lot of work last night.
Absolutely. Amen to that.
Well, thank you, Mr. Moss. And I have to call you Mr. Moss because you being the all-time leading rusher in school history, you broke the record of my childhood hero, Eddie Johnson. So I will continue to call you Mr. Moss out of respect. I appreciate your time and insight, and I hope your Labor Day is as laborious as you choose it to be.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Appreciate you.
All right. Have a good one. Go Utes. We'll see you on the 48-hour rule.
Welcome to the players' lounge. Yeah. When all the moment, man, it can't compare. Due to the obvious, people look at me and then they envious.
Thank you so much to everybody for listening today. Please like and subscribe and stay tuned for more UteNation podcasts and coverage.